Hello, guys. Yeah, Turin semifinals. We're going to be previewing it. Apparently, we didn't even cover today's Rublev Zverev match. Did you even watch it, Vansh? I mean, given that it was a dead rubber.
I did manage to catch a little bit of it. Yes. Yeah, not the most exciting of stakes, I guess. But the semifinals and finals are going to be really good. So
Yeah, I think I said it earlier today on Twitter that, like, if our prize for having these semifinals is this evening session just being absolute trash, just bin it instantly, that's okay. We are gonna enjoy the weekend and forget about this evening session very quickly because both in singles and in doubles, right? It was
yeah.
just a dead rubber. At least in doubles, you got a pairing that will actually go through,
hmm
and in singles, you just had two players who were already eliminated. So I didn't bother with it. I stayed at the darts tonight. Now we can actually talk about these semis. And I guess we have some sort of an agenda that John sent us here. We might follow it as well, right? Right? I mean, why not? So the first one was actually Zverev Rublev, yeah, and any takes on that, and how it went for the players here, like the whole campaigns, the whole ATP finals for Rublev and Zverev, so the guys who have been eliminated.
Well, yeah, for Zverev, I mean, he went 2-1 in the round robin and didn't come through. Obviously, played great against Alcaraz, and then had a lot of chances against Medvedev in both sets actually, particularly in the first set tiebreak where he was up 4-1 and he missed an easy volley, and then he had a set point and made a mess of this like +1 forehand, and that set kind of got away from him. So he probably will have a few regrets on the Medvedev match. As for this one, I think I mean he will be happy that he recovered from the slow start. He was down an early break, and he finally managed to get a win on the board against Rublev, who he lost to three times this year. And also Rublev was very kind of defeated. I think Rublev will be the most disappointed amongst these eight players in terms of how his campaign went. Particularly last year when he made the semis, and this year how well he had sort of done in Beijing and Paris and Vienna, and in those tournaments, basically losing to the eventual winners. So that will, or I guess Shanghai. Shanghai is what I mean. Shanghai, Vienna, and Paris. So I mean, from that standpoint, I think he's probably very burnt out, and also just the nature of his losses tended to be that he would compete really really hard in the first set in basically all three matches and have a lot of his have a lot of opportunities, but then be very demoralized in the second set and kind of go dark on himself. So that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, we don't know how much of that was the impact of the cold that he caught in Turin, but after all,
But
Andrei
yeah,
Rublev
yes,
is a player who sort of, against the very best, he often lacks that little touch of quality, and I guess that also kind of comes into the picture here. Yeah, just a horrific ATP Finals campaign, which is fine because last year he made the semis, so it's not like he was always like this at this event. However, last year's semis, terrible match against Kasper Ruud in the semis, where Rublev was obviously considered the favorite, on such courts. So certainly, as a whole, Andrei Rublev and his Nito ATP Finals experiences over the past 4 years, yeah, they haven't been too great. But the guy has made it four times in a row, and he is actually very likely, I think, to make it for the fifth time in a row. I think he's one of the guys who kinda is pretty hard to it's pretty hard to imagine him the lineup without him next year. So
yeah.
yeah, that's kudos to him for that. But his ATP Finals showings have not been impressive at all. And yeah, Zverev obviously kind of unlucky to miss out. 2-1. The touring courts suit him a lot. He is actually very good at this event most of the time. 2018 he won it in London. 2021 he won it in Turin. And yeah, sort of just unlucky that because he actually did like very well. I mean, he won two matches. One of them, of course, wasn't in straights, which is why he didn't have a shot here. But yeah, the opening set against Medvedev, especially the tiebreak, is probably where it went wrong for him, and he takes that, and then we have a completely different conversation before today, different qualifying scenarios. But as it stands, of course, he was eliminated after the Alcaraz Medvedev match already, which I guess is what John meant here with the format. because John texted me again about this head-to-head, dilemma that we had yesterday, whether we should include it in the, in the tiebreakers, sort of. And John basically claimed that if the head-to-head wasn't the tiebreaker between two players, then today would have been very different. Like there wouldn't be all of these dead rubbers, right? Um, I don't know. I think we can just pass on to Alcaraz Medvedev at this point, right?
Sure, yeah, unless you have some takes on the format as a whole. And I
Yeah,
mean, I
not really.
it's yeah, I think it is kind of what it is, and it's unique in a sense that it's like the only event basically that we have it like this
Yeah.
on the tour, I guess, along with the next gen finals. But uh, yeah, I mean,
Sometimes
I'm
it's
fine with
amazing.
it.
I mean, Federer Djokovic 2019. Remember that much, the build up to it. I mean, yeah, that was obviously as a Federer fan, that was a very pleasing experience for me. That was a very pleasant experience. But just even before that match, just this coming up, two of the goats facing each other in a shootout for who leaves the group. Yeah, that was something special for sure. And actually, I will mention the darts because this week actually we have the Grand Slam of Darts, one of the majors, and this is also the only event in a year out of the, let's say, the most important ones, the pro events, that uses a group stage format as well, and it's
Mm.
always like around the same time as the ATP finals. And there's a very similar dilemma there because we actually had, I think, five dead rubbers as a whole. So in the Grand Slam
Yeah.
of Darts, you've got eight groups, and I think five matches all in all at the end were actually dead rubbers. So they would basically throw them in at the beginning of the day and then finish off with the good stuff. And some of the shootouts for who enters the group were excellent. There were two. This is like an invitational sort of event for like the winners of stuff. If you win a big tournament, you're gonna be there. There were also two women involved. They were involved in these shootouts, and in darts, it's like a huge thing when a woman when a woman is playing and competing with the males, and especially when they're holding up, which they were. So yeah, the disadvantages are clear, the advantages as well, and well, sometimes we're gonna get lucky. Today we just didn't. Alcaraz
Yeah.
Medvedev, yeah, let's chat about that now. And John obviously wants us to remember that yesterday both me and Vaj were under the impression that Carlos Alcaraz will actually be a slight underdog to Daniel Medvedev indoors in Turin. John was basically saying that the U.S. Open is a fluke. I mean, he didn't say that, but he was saying that the U.S. Open is a bit of an outlier, and he's expecting the rivalry to get back to like the previous terms. So Wimbledon, Indian Wells. Were we wrong? Was John right? And if, for example, they play tomorrow, not tomorrow, but if they play on Sunday in the final, will you still believe that Medvedev is a slight favorite, or are you now shifting your perception?
Well, I think the reason we thought that is just because of the speed of the courts, and we thought that Medvedev would have the upper hand in the serve and return dynamic, and that he would, basically just be able to rely on that, rely on getting those free points on the serve, and rely on his, baseline sort of consistency, and kind of replicate what he did, or at least come close to giving himself some chances in big moments to, to win it when it got tight. And I guess technically Alcaraz was the slight favorite going into this match, like based on the odds, but we knew that it was going to be, this was going to be the most sort of challenging thing for him. And I guess we were a little wrong in terms of how the how it actually shaped up. And that's the great thing about Alcaraz, because he's a really quick learner, and he's fast at adapting himself. And once he gets out of those early tough first rounds, and he works his way into the tournament, and he starts to feel like more comfortable in the conditions, then he becomes way more dangerous. And we kind of saw that today with his like laser focus, and also just the tactics were just completely spot on again. This time, I think Medvedev was more prepared for the wide serves actually a lot of the times, and Alcaraz was like, okay, I'll just go T, on the on the deuce side, and I'll try to just mix up my spots as much as I can on the serve. And I think that's very positive that he was able to win, a lot of free points, get a lot of unreturned serves, and then just kind of play like dictating offensive tennis. I think the Alcaraz Medvedev matchup, the three matches that he's won this year, we've really seen like the full complete array that Alcaraz really has to offer in terms of his all court ability, and just the variation, the sort of the slice backhands, I guess something that Korda did really well both times he beat Medvedev this year, which is use those short slices, get Medvedev inside the court on his backhand where he can't really do as much damage as when he's behind the baseline and kind of absorbing the pace, and then um, try to finish, build up the point, finish at net, and be very clinical while doing it. So I think tactically it was a very good match for Medvedev. Of course, Medvedev did have a couple of early chances in the first set, but they were quickly erased by Alcaraz brilliantly. Two really good wide serves, and basically those were the only two break chances he faced the whole time. But there were also other occasions in this match where he was down love 30, 15-30, many different service schemes. Medvedev had a few looks in the first couple of chances, and they were just completely erased away. And so I guess credit to Alcaraz is serving, because even in the Zverev match, he was serving extremely well. And so it looks like he's peaking at the right time again.
Yeah, I honestly didn't watch it as thoroughly as you probably. I was indebted on the courts, of course, and basically I sort of stopped watching after the opening set. I didn't think that this was how it was going to go from there or something like that. I didn't have that sort of clarity, but
Mm.
I just got a sort of an image of the match, and yeah, certainly Alcaraz just went right back to what he was using in Wimbledon, especially, and yeah, just abusing that deep return position, deep positioning in the rallies as well from Medvedev. Maybe not necessarily with drop shots because it's going to be hard on such a fast court, but yeah, definitely like fantastic at the net. And the touch he has on the first volley is pretty ridiculous, which we mentioned a few times. And in a way, this was pretty similar to Wimbledon, where I was expecting Medvedev's serve to just be a very important factor, and it wasn't. Alcaraz still was able to play like return plus one aggression a lot of the time, both in Turin and in London, which yeah is a very good sign for him. As Sean I think said a second ago in the chat, yeah, Alcaraz didn't like the fast conditions for one day, which is very true. I mean, we still have to see how he's going to hold up against Novak and potentially Sinner. I think maybe even Sinner is going to be a bigger tell because
Yeah.
probably in the matchup with Yannick, these conditions could be more beneficial to Yannick against Alcaraz than Novak against Alcaraz. So yeah, I think maybe if we see a final like this, then that would be really telling. But yeah, he showed his ability to adapt for sure, and yeah, we even talked about this yesterday, right? That like Alcaraz might have a slight issue with these cards, and especially with the fact that he isn't we don't have any other super fast indoor hard courts on tour, in the sort of warm up to it. But it's not like he cannot adapt to it, and that he's certainly going to be more successful on indoor hard than Nadal ever was. If we have to make that comparison, there's a quote from Medvedev here on my screen, which I haven't seen. Um, yeah, he's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's true.
what he says is very true. Yeah, that we said it a few times that the touch that you need to have on the first volley is definitely quite ridiculous. And yeah, at the U.S. Open, I think Alcaraz just started overplaying it. He had no idea how to beat Medvedev any other way, so he started just doing it on every single point, and then it's not exactly the efficient strategy that we know anymore. Um, Serve and volley for Carlos didn't actually work out that much. Maybe not necessarily serve and volleying, but approaching the net more so during the
Yeah,
rallies.
and then
Uh,
good like serve plus one, and then
yeah,
good shots on the fourth ball that were like off the return, and then like return plus one, I guess, and then coming
yeah,
in on that, and so good hands basically at the net, good efficiency. Not so much outright serve and volley because he was also going to
yeah.
the T serve quite a lot, and probably that's a little bit more dangerous to serve and volley against Medvedev on. Um, so
Indoors, it could also be tougher to serve and
yeah,
volley, I think, because it's just going to come back even faster at you, and your contact point on the volley is probably going to be a nightmare. Like, of course, it's still good if you're like a serve and volleyer, like a player with a super big serve. But I think if we're just thinking Alcaraz Medvedev, he actually might have a better shot at serve and volleying against Daniel, I don't know, Indian Wells, for example, than in
mm,
Turin, which is pretty cool to think about. If yeah,
yeah, because Alcaraz can, Medvedev can also dip it really low at your feet, and he can
Yeah,
The low bounce is going to make it easier for him to kind of maybe read it a little bit, and
he
also
doesn't
maybe on
really
the
block,
stretch.
I
Yeah,
guess, since he's like so deep.
yeah.
But if he also had a block return, then indoors maybe it would have been. But anyway, yeah, still an excellent performance definitely from Carlos Alcaraz. He gets out of the groups. He also wins it in two, which was crucial in order to let him top the group. And as a reward for topping the group, could ask you why Novak Djokovic. Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if you answered that just before we get to the semifinal previews, because our next points on the agenda are just John got the Alcaraz Medi matchup right and Vanchen Dayman didn't. But did you answer that? I mean, I asked whether if they play tomorrow, if they play on Sunday, would your like perception of the matchup change, or would you still consider Medvedev a slight favorite?
Um, no, I'd probably make Alcaraz a slight favorite, but it also kind of depends on how their semifinals are. Like if
Uh-huh.
Medvedev has like this ridiculous match with Sinner and it's like 3.5 hours, and you know,
But they
and
start
like how
right. They
Alcaraz
play
looks.
first, so
Yeah. And then I guess how Alcaraz looks against Djokovic, like which kind of Novak shows up, and that I guess that would kind of maybe factor more into it. But like I think I have a stat that like most of the time, like 11 out of 19 times, I think that the result from the round robin is actually reversed in the final, and 8 times it stayed the same. So, but that's not really, that's just more like historical trends. It's not really like matchup specific. But I think I just don't really trust Daniil anymore to play the level that he played at the U.S. Open, because that's kind of what's required to beat Alcaraz, right, in this matchup. Like he really has to be like that much on it, like
um,
he was in New York.
I kind of
Um,
think that he just sort of had to at the U.S. Open. I kind of think that he just had to stick with him until a certain point, and that certain point was six
yeah.
all, 3-all in the tiebreak in the opening set. And that's when the fact that against Medvedev, Alcaraz has to play very smart and sort of be very aware and execute all the patterns and with just
Mm,
clarity of mind. And then suddenly there's a close score. He loses that for just 1 second, and the match just gets completely turned around. I mean, he loses the next 4 points. He loses the second set, and there's no way to turn back. I actually don't think that Medvedev played as well as he himself thinks in that US Open semifinal. But of course, he was excellent. But like 12 out of 10 or whatever he said, I think that was, a little bit of a stretch. But certainly, I think that's sort of what he needs, not to allow Alcaraz to just run away with things like at Wimbledon, like here at the ATP finals, where the opening set is not even tiebreak. There's no real sense of it being close because there's this one break, and well, of course, it wasn't here. It wasn't like right away, but still, it happens like midway through the set. And yeah, I would probably say that this was like key for me at the US Open to stick around with Alcaraz, see if under pressure he will also be able to just keep executing the right patterns. And he actually failed at that at some point. Maybe also the thigh thing that he had that could have played into it as well. No, actually, Nurlan is the king. He said earlier that the king just came, and I think he meant him. And yeah,
mm.
that's it when it comes to the king topics and who's the king of tennis and tennis knowledge. So let's get to the semifinal previews, right?
Yep. I mean, first up is Medvedev Sinner, which has become a really fun match to watch in the last, well, basically two matches with Beijing and Vienna. Particularly Vienna was just excellent from both guys and really just high caliber. And we saw Yannick really able to showcase a lot of his improvements. And Medvedev actually played a pretty high level as well. Do we expect kind of more the same tomorrow when it comes to these two bringing a high level? I guess the assumption being that Medvedev is able to bounce back now from this round robin defeat and kind of put it behind him, and you know reset, and then Sinner as well to recover from the back issue that was suddenly bothering him in the second set yesterday and at times early on in the third. Assuming those two things are not a factor, do we think
Yeah,
that Sinner is probably the favorite here?
yeah. I think so. I think he deserves to be the favorite. He is the favorite for the bookmakers, and it might feel a bit weird because like before Beijing, we were pretty much saying that this matchup is so rough for him. He has turned it around. I'm not at that sort of stage where like people were saying, for example, about the possibility of tanking and then potentially playing Medvedev, which actually would have been the other way around, as we know now. But about this possibility, people were basically saying that okay, so Sinner has beaten Medvedev twice now, so he is gonna just do it again. Like, what's the real effort? And actually, that's not how I perceive it at all. I mean, their matches in Beijing and Vienna were definitely quite arduous. But I think he has definitely improved his serving first and foremost, and that's so important here. The amount of free points that he can get, especially on the touring courts, and also just the sheer ability to step out of his comfort zone, go to the net, throw in something out of nowhere sometimes, and that's sort of attitude mindset that he has been showing of just sort of letting it loose on a few occasions. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work on a certain point, but that's fine in the long run. John says Sinner's health is okay. I mean, how could we know? Um, if it's fine, yeah, he is the slight favorite for me over Medvedev. He was definitely fine in the third set against Rune. He got a day off. I don't really see a reason to think that he's going to be like unable to compete tomorrow at his highest intensity. And honestly, like this loss for Medvedev against Alcaraz, I don't think it will hamper him too much mindset wise, but it kind of makes me think whether he actually has, let's say they both come out and they play at their 110%. I actually am not sure if he's gonna be able to like show the quality that he needs here against Sinner in Turin, at home and on courts that the Italian really really enjoys.
Yeah, and with the crowd as well, it's going to
Yeah.
be, there's going to be a lot of, I guess, those dynamics where Medvedev is having to go back and forth with them and between first and second serves, which he doesn't really like, and also just the applause for Yannick and the ovations he's going to get. I mean, that could be that could mess with his head a little bit, but I guess just sticking to the tennis. Oh, is this? I guess a lot of people are pointing to this post
He
U.S. Open
beat
stretch as the
Djokovic in the round robin. I mean,
yeah,
no, we've already seen it.
we have, yeah.
Next step is the best of five play Grand Slams. Here, this match doesn't matter whatsoever.
Yeah, it's all about the majors next year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it matters right now to him, but like in terms of seeing whether he has actually taken the next step, he has clearly taken it, and it's not here where we're gonna see whether he has taken the next one.
Mm.
Ayla says
Yeah,
that Sinner has a lot of momentum, and that's very true as well. After beating Rune, and it's kind of different if he lost to him.
yeah, for sure. I mean, the chances that we get a three setter should still very much be high, I would say.
Yeah,
And potentially both of the matches, honestly, but especially this one.
and yeah, I do agree that Sinner should be the favorite here. He is the favorite. That's spot on. Alcaraz Djokovic, though, fifth meeting between these two. Of course, we've already had three this year.
Yeah,
Two and
and
two.
on a fifth different surface, if you like, right? With
Altitude clay and clay.
regular clay, I guess, if you want to
Okay,
put it like
okay.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. I mean, we can even have them playing, I don't know, in Paris next year, and we're gonna say it's a six different surface.
I thought you were gonna say it's mining challenger, and then they had to cross off carpet as well.
Honestly, that was the first thing that came to my mind, but they're not gonna play there unless they fall off like terribly, and then they are still not gonna play there. Although Federico Del Boni is dead. But yeah, anyway, Alcaraz Djokovic here. I guess who should be the favorite is pretty clear.
Yeah,
It's
Djokovic
just a
is
question
the
of,
slight favorite
yeah,
for sure.
what do you
But
think about Alcaraz's chances, and especially after the last two matches where he seemed to have eased his way into Turin.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me at the start of the week, I would have said, nah, he doesn't really have that much of a chance. But I think I give him much more of a chance now, to be honest. Just kind of seeing Djokovic play all these three setters, I get the feeling that he's a little bit more there for the taking right now. Just at the right now, and I say like in the
Hmm.
last 2 3 days, just being just
Yeah.
having a few more dips, having that one kind of game that could allow Alcaraz to get more into it. It's going to be interesting to see what Djokovic does on second serves because Alcaraz is has been able to bother him a lot with kick serves, and oftentimes it's been more advantageous in the other conditions, but the kick serve doesn't work as well here in these sort of conditions. So that is going to be very interesting to watch, and also how Alcaraz deals with the pressure. I mean, he kind of already dealt with it really well at Wimbledon and bouncing back and managed to calm himself down a lot mentally to allow himself the opportunity to compete and play those physical type of points. So I'm assuming I'm going to say that he's going to be fine and ready in terms of mentally being able to go toe to toe with Djokovic for 3 or 4 hours. Uh, so honestly, this is probably a good spot and good time to play Djokovic uh, in a semi rather than a final. When Djokovic is mind is more on the Davis Cup, I think he really wants to win that. That is basically his biggest motivation now that he's got the year-end number one locked up. So but I do think Djokovic is going to be really amped up by this match too because yeah, I mean just it being Alcaraz and he's going to want to win, and so I think it's going to be really high quality. And yeah, I don't really know which way it's going to go. It's tough to really say, but I definitely like Alcaraz's chances way more than I did at the start of the week.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely a lot more optimistic about this now, about this being a close match.
Mm.
I think Djokovic, by the time he gets to the semis, he is probably going to be a little more focused and motivated than he was maybe even at some points of the group stage. I don't think against Sinner, honestly, he had many dips. It was probably more so the Hurkacz match that was a little
Yeah,
spotty, but it was also a good performance from Paul in the opening two sets, of course. The third, yeah, one to forget, 100%. And yeah, as I said earlier, I think these chords are more detrimental to Alcaraz in the Sinner matchup than they are against Djokovic.
mm,
For Alcaraz, the probably his like best course of action from here is to play. Well, definitely is to play Djokovic then Medvedev if he was to win the title, is to avoid Sinner at all. And yeah, Rune especially was able to play against Djokovic like exactly the same as he did in Paris. He was able to not get overwhelmed by the serve and plus one sort of forehand aggression that Novak can have right now in his game, which maybe he wasn't really known for in the past. Alcaraz has that same sort of foot speed and defense, and well, by Vanch's yawning, you would think that he is in a country where it's midnight, but it's actually
oh
me.
no, it's actually you. Yeah, it's just food coma in
Um,
the afternoon for sure.
yeah, the sugar rush. Anyway, yeah, I just believe that Alcaraz should also be able to get a lot of balls back and get himself into points on return. He has beaten Djokovic in conditions that were, well, pretty fast and let's say
Yeah,
low bouncing as well. Wimbledon probably at this stage, in our era, doesn't really compare to Turin in terms of the speed, but still, there are some similarities, and it does give me
yeah.
quite a lot of
There are
confidence
some
that it
similarities
should
in
be close.
how Alcaraz has been spot serving and
Yeah,
taking his targets a lot better to
because
Wimbledon,
the
even if
kick
he's
is
not
not
as
working, as you said, and yeah,
yeah. It,
he
it
has
just
to
kind of
go
maybe
for it.
forces him to go for it a little bit more, and seems to be paying off so far. Uh,
Interesting question from Nuran as well. Is it just me, or I feel like in every single match against Novak, Alcaraz has been the better player. Somehow Novak has won two of them.
Definitely
Ooh.
3 out of the 4.
Um,
I would not say that's the case at Roland Garros when they played each other. Just because of how dominant Djokovic really was in the first set, and the fact that he did have a break point to go up 6-5 in the second. Of course, Alcaraz also served for the second set at 5-3, and he definitely had all the momentum going into the third, and then
yeah.
he had the cramps at 1-all in the third. But I definitely think. And then also for the first 2 sets, it was obviously Djokovic who had the missed set point, and then so you can definitely argue it, but definitely in Cincinnati was the better player for a set and seemed to be handling the conditions better, and was up a break as well in the second, and then once he yeah
I was just laughing at the John
once he
comment.
got it, yeah.
Yeah, Wimbledon, I actually would say that I'm not even sure Alcaraz was the better player there.
No, like
Djokovic
definitely
started
not for
so
the first
well
two
for the
sets.
for the set and a half, yeah, maybe even
Yeah,
set and 80% of the second
and
one.
then
Alcaraz
really
kind of steals it, and
yeah.
yeah, I actually am not even sure if I would say that Alcaraz was the better player at Wimbledon. Didn't they win like a very similar amount of points as well? And
They did, yeah. It
yeah.
was
I can't remember what it was, but it was like exactly the same almost. So I actually think that at Wimbledon, he wasn't like strictly the better player. It was like a super tight match where he won the important points. Roland
yeah,
Garros, yeah, he had the momentum going forward into the third. It was that moment where like his forehand started taking over, but we have no way of knowing whether that will actually continue. But it was like a 51-49 Alcaraz for me. Cincinnati, I get what you mean. And Madrid, yeah, I do think that he was like, even though it was so tight, 3 hours and 30 minutes or whatever, 38 or something like that, I think he actually was pretty much throughout almost a better player. So, yeah, I get what you mean, but actually at Wimbledon, I'm not sure about that really.
yeah,
I think it was just a bit of a, he won the sets, he won the points, but, well, he won the points that he had to sort of. Um. Anyway, what else do we have? Alcaraz can play freely, says Ayla. It's Djokovic who has all the pressures, the defending champion. I don't know if Djokovic really feels the pressure of being the defending champion. The guy has, like, he's the
been
defending
defending
champion at
champion.
half the events he plays.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know if this really matters to him all that much more than actually just taking one more title. Like, I don't think it really adds to the pressure that he won
yeah,
this event in 2022. But yeah, I think he's gonna come super hungry anyway. I mean, he's playing Alcaraz. He knows
yeah,
what sort of matchup that is, that he can potentially be playing like the next player with double-digit slams. So yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna bring it, and I hope that Alcaraz is gonna bring it. But again, he felt it at Wimbledon though. Like, did he feel the pressure of being the defending champion? How do
mm,
we classify that? Like, I don't think so. Especially as at Wimbledon, he wasn't even defending points, right? Everyone was gaining them. So yeah, I don't think that the pressure, and if he even felt the pressure at Wimbledon, because, well, Alcaraz steals the second set, and from that point onwards, it's just a good tussle between two amazing players. But
yeah,
like, yeah, why do we think it was because he was the defending champ? I don't really think that's the case. Like, I think it's just more important that it was a slam final rather than the fact that he won that slam in 2021. And that's the same way I would sort of approach this one. But yeah,
yeah. In a way, I think both can really play just without really thinking about rankings and points and defending titles and all of that. So that's why I think we could be in for a real thriller with this one, just because those outside factors are just kind of removed. But I think these two players are so great anyway that they're usually just able to make it more so about the critical points and the tactics and stuff. So far we don't have any reason to believe that this won't be a good match. I would say.
yeah, I hope it will be. And by the way, I'm not saying he didn't feel any pressure. I'm just saying it like that, sort of, that he felt at Wimbledon. It sort of implies that he lost because of it, and that was what I was referring to. Of course, all players feel pressure in any match, really. Which surface would produce the best match between Alcaraz and Djokovic on average? I have my answer, I think. Let me think about it. What's yours as well? Um, yeah, I think I have my answer actually.
Like amongst the five or amongst the three?
No, let's just pick from clay, grass, indoor, hard, and hard. Maybe. I think that's probably the way we should do it, right? Or
Yeah.
which five did you want to include? Altitude clay or?
No, no. I guess no. This is just way more than just
Okay, yeah.
specific. But
Let's
I would
let's just,
say,
let's just get the four out basically.
yeah. Maybe it could be hardcore. Just why not?
I wanted to say clay.
Could be clay. Yeah, could be. I mean, of course, we didn't really get to see the full extent of it at Roland Garros, but
Yeah,
you know, uh, Yeah, honestly, I don't know. It could be any. It could be anywhere.
If you were to give me Djokovic Alcaraz, like tomorrow, at any of the big venues of the ATP Tour, well, Madrid, but that's a bit of a different clay, and also 2 years ago. But yeah, if you were to give me Djokovic versus Alcaraz tomorrow on literally any court of the 13, let's say, well, 14 along with ATP finals, I think I would want to see them again at Roland Garros. But maybe it's just the
Yeah.
fact that we
That
didn't
we were
quite
robbed of
get
it.
that
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. That's a
But
fair answer.
slow hard court is an interesting answer as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, something like that. But I think tomorrow should be exciting too. I am
yeah.
really hopeful for that match to deliver, and not be routing in either way. Like just for the players to come up, and after 30 minutes, I hope that we're not gonna be like, okay, this guy has won. Get me away from the screen. I don't think that's
Mm.
gonna happen. No. And Sinner Medvedev has that potential for me, maybe a little bit more, if Sinner is just at that ridiculous level that he's been at so far. But maybe I'm just disappointed with Medvedev today as well, and that is sort of playing into my thoughts here.
Yeah, for sure. Medvedev gave himself an 8.5 today out of 10, by the way, for his performance, and he said that he did not play his best against Zverev, but he won.
So
And to
if
me,
if he gives himself 8.5 for today, then I'm not
yeah,
surprised he gives himself 12 out of 10 against Alcaraz at the US Open.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I
his
mean,
best
look,
performance
he
is
just
about
really rates
20,
Alcaraz.
probably.
He just really rates him.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that much has been really clear. I think the especially the Indian Wells and Wimbledon matches, like in his head, just
Yeah.
makes it seem like
And against Sinner, he was 6-0, right? So it's kind of understandable that even though
yeah.
some of it is a matchup thing, he actually considers him a lesser player. Maybe not than himself, but at least than Alcaraz.
Mm,
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess I mean he did say that Alcaraz played a ridiculous game to break him at 3-all in the first set, which is kind of true. And then he more blamed himself for the break in the second,
Mhm.
which I guess would make sense. So yeah, yeah. And of course it reads as shade, between Medvedev and Zverev again.
Maybe Medvedev just hates this very matchup as well, and he's like,
He's
"No, we're
tired
gonna
of
have
it.
to
Yeah.
torment people with that again." But you know what, guys? We're not gonna see Medvedev and Zverev in 2023
Yes.
anymore,
Hooray.
unless there's like an exhibition that they both play, World Tennis League or whatever. But then I'm definitely not tuning in, even if it was the only match on the planet at that point. No, 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 I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, and I will be hoping they're not in the same quarter at the Australian Open either, with where they're ranked right now.
When you guys gonna come back from holiday?
Uh,
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not following that all that much. I think I saw today that it was like a sponsored post that
mm,
someone like she's on holiday in the Maldives with her friends, like her friends' family organized it, and there was some company involved. That's why it was the
the
sponsored post.
Maldives. I didn't know tennis
Yeah.
players went there every offseason.
Yeah, perhaps she's gonna meet Melo and Zverev vacationing together. But anyway, Swiatek said that it's gonna be like a few days before she hits the courts again. So yeah, that's really
Nice.
all I know. If Carlos Alcaraz is confidential, hopefully he can take tennis to another level. What? Um, any sympathy for Zverev? Yeah, we did say that. Yeah, that he
Yeah.
is basically quite unlucky not to make it, and realistically, probably the fifth best player still. But he is closer to the four that made it than to Tsitsipas, Rune, and Rublev for sure.
Yeah, I probably thought he was going to finish the year number 5 after the US Open.
Yeah.
So, the fact that he didn't, he just had a couple of poor
No, I
tournaments
was
in
just talking
Croatia.
about this event, by the way, not about
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah, yeah.
whole. Like as a whole, yeah, as a whole, he actually probably deserves to be like 6, 7. But
Mm,
I mean, just at this event, I think he was
yeah.
very close to making it to that top four. but I'm glad we got that top four. Yeah, Michael, I figured that you meant confident, but confidential is kind of funny in this context too. Uh,
Yeah.
is Nurlan and his random questions and also Elise Mertens, is this regarding like sympathy? Because John says, but any sympathy for Zverev winning his last match and Elise Mertens? Any news about Elise Mertens that I should know about?
No, apart from that she won the Jasmine Open.
Against Jasmine Paolini. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a while ago, so probably not any news. I guess she was also at the WTA finals, right? But
Yeah.
um,
The doubles.
yeah, I don't know if I should feel any sympathy for it. But anyway, yeah. Oh, she's also in the
Oh, she's in the
Maldives. Okay,
Maldives. Okay.
that's what
Yeah.
you
No,
meant. Okay,
yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be wrapping up then. Any final words? Any comment on the matchup?
No, I think we
Yeah,
covered it all. Yeah.
yeah. It's gonna be a super exciting day. So guys, make sure to tune into that. I'll probably have to watch Sinner Medvedev in Danderit again. Well, I'm still gonna be in Danderit. We're gonna be watching Alcaraz Djokovic, but it's gonna be here at this very desk.
But you get to watch Brandon Nakashima. So
Yeah, I
lucky
get to watch
you.
Brandon Nakashima against the new Belgian GOAT. Today he beat the old Belgian GOAT, David Goffin. Now he's going to play
Yeah.
Alexander Blocks, who, by the way, is going to be like massive in any really, really soon.
He's quite good.
And
Yeah.
I also am going to get to watch Maximilian Martin against Flavio Cobolli, which I would suspect indoors should be very easy for Martin, but we shall see. Both players at a very similar ranking range and sort of fighting to make the Australian Open. Cobolli actually withdrew from Valencia, so this is his last event before the next gen finals. So a bit of pressure, I guess, maybe because he's like not sure of making it. I think, but we'll see, depending how many PRs are there. But yeah, last chance to see him before Jeddah, I guess. So
Yeah.
and there's also going to be the doubles final. I'm so excited for that. But actually, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Julian Cash with Bart Stevens against Chandrasekhar and Prasad. So yeah, the top two seeds and should be pretty high quality. I hope that I'm gonna have the will and the willpower to stay for it because it's after the singles semifinals, which always makes it kind of tricky. But
Yeah.
unless it's like really late. Yeah, I think I should be on for Carlos Novak.
Yeah.
The
Actually, one
action.
more thing: the doubles in Turin is very exciting too
Oh
because
yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's
we
talk
could
about
have a
that.
rematch of the U.S. Open final in the doubles with Rahman Salisbury and Popana and Ebden. So
Yes, John, I am wearing a Beatles t-shirt. It's Revolver. And tune in, guys, remember, because Nurlan is going to give his breakdowns after both matches. So I'm excited to see that. I'm probably not going to be able to tune in after Medvedev Sinner, but after, the one that I'm probably going to do. So Alcaraz Djokovic, yeah. And yeah, the doubles. I think the top two seeds went out, right? With Kolhov
yeah,
Skapski and Todik Krajicek, but still a good field. Any ideas there as to who's the favorites? Doubles
I
is
don't know.
so
I'm
random.
gonna stick with the rematch of the U.S. Open final. I think it could happen.
Um, okay, I would
But
probably go with Granollers Ceballos to win the first one, given that they dominated the group so much. I think they also did very well in the past at the ATP finals, didn't
yes,
they?
but
Are
I'm gonna
they
ignore that
maybe?
because I need Rohan Bopana to become number one at 43 years of age.
Ah, okay, that's why. Well, maybe
Just
okay,
be a really
maybe I
cool
was a
story, and I'm
little.
rooting for that. So
Yeah, basically they made the semis twice. Gomez Bias, not more, but yeah, still, I think that's a pairing that I enjoy more than Bopana Ebden. I actually think that Bopana Ebden, their results have been a little
yeah,
better
they've
than
been
yeah.
yeah,
Like I don't think they're quite as good as some of the pairings here, but of course they are. They keep pulling it off, so it's fine. And
yeah,
yeah, Ram Salisbury definitely in the other semi. I think look like the favorites to me over Gonzalez and Roger Vasselin. But Gonzalez and Roger Vasselin, I think they've won like billion titles recently as well. So
yeah, yeah. These are all
basically,
like yeah, very good.
yeah, I think yeah, 5 titles this year, Gonzalez and Vasselin, and that was Basel and Paris as well. So they
Mm.
are the inform pairing, if you may. So it's very possible actually that they will trouble Ram and Salisbury. Yeah, so now we probably say bye, right?
Yep.
Yeah, what the fast cards were quickly okay, says Alcantara. Yeah, I don't really think that again, I don't really think that Alcaraz was not okay with the courts in the first place. It's just more that, you know, it was so fresh and new because there's no other courts like that around. But yeah, certainly now he's not going to be complaining. And no, John,
Yeah.
Revolver is not the first album of the Beatles, you uncultured. It's the first good album though. Like very, it's the first actually good. Like the first one where it's like more experimental and more ambitious. Let's say that. But yeah, definitely not the first. It's like the sixth or seventh. I would have to count, but anyway, I'm not gonna bore you while I'll try to remember. So yeah, I guess this is our cue to go. Let's
Yeah.
get our producer to end the stream, and thanks to her, and also to you, Vansh, and to all the people in the chat. And make sure, guys, to tune into our streams tomorrow.
Yep.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis. I don't know if you're there, Anastasia.